Welcome to the SRS files / institutionalized. Welcome to episode number 3. Now, this is going to be an interesting episode. We have a great guest, and we have a follow-up episode as well coming up in the same episode, if that makes sense. So, two people in one. So we're going to start off with one and then back to back with another one because they're both around an hour or so. And yeah, I'd like to give you guys a little bit more than 1 hour of content per week. So hopefully you'll enjoy it, and we'll see you at the end of the episode. We got Kim today, and we'll get this party started here. So tell me a little bit about your pickup.
So unlike others, I did not actually have a pickup. I had a drop off. My mom flew me there and dropped me off.
How old were you when you went there?
That's what I was just trying to do. I went in 2002, so I forgot to do the math before we it was my eighth grade year, so 12, 13, something like that.
Oh, wow. You're really young.
Yeah.
And how did the drop off go? Your parents just told you you're going here and you're accepting to it?
Well, not really. I was kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but I was there for suicide.
Oh, wow.
Because I lost my dad in a car accident with me and him when I was 11 years old, and I could not cope with it. So that's the reason that I went. I live in Alaska. I was sent to a place here in Alaska, and they said that I needed further help. And so they said that this would be a good place to send me. My mom agreed. I had no choice in the matter. Pretty much went from there to the airport to Sorensons.
Wow. That's pretty heavy. I'm sorry to hear that about your father.
So.
And at that age, that must have been so tough to cope with something like that.
Yeah, it was a whirlwind.
So how long were you at SRS?
I was there for 6 months, a little over 6 months.
Okay. That's a long time, but there's people that have been there for years too, which is like,
yeah.
It's like less trauma, I would say, if you're only there for 6 months than if you're there for a year.
Or 2 years, yeah.
So what was your first impressions of the ranch?
You know, they made it seem a lot different than what it was going to be. The office ladies, because we met the office ladies at the front, they kind of gave us a tour like outside of the things. We couldn't see any of the students. They said for, whatever reasoning, to protect the students and stuff like that or whatnot. And they kind of gave us a tour of things, and they made it seem like it was a super awesome place. It was going to be amazing. The lady at the office said that she was really involved with the ranch and the students, and I don't remember ever seeing her again. Like, period.
So your first impressions were pretty misguided, you would say?
Yeah.
And you're only 12 years old, and your parents are there, and they're thinking, this is a great place to send my kid. She's going to have horseback riding, a school she can graduate, counseling, one-on-one, all this stuff that they claim that they're doing. So your first impressions were, wow, this is actually not so bad. Maybe I'll meet some friends, and maybe I'll have a good time
I was
here.
Excited about the 4-H too, about the horses and stuff, because they said that we rode those every day.
So when you first got there, have you ever heard of Mormons? You're from Alaska.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I had friends that were Mormons.
So that was no new thing for you. Okay, and we already figured out. I already asked why your parents sent you there. So why don't you skip that one and tell me a little bit about the level system from what you remember.
I remember there was a few levels. Level 1 was the worst, and it was the worst to be in. And then you were able to build up to get your rewards and, you know, earn some money to get treats. And what I can't remember how far it went, but was it level 5? That's when you were able to move off campus and live with some caregivers in their homes and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it was like a system where,
It was the point system. It was, yeah,
yeah, so you, to gain a level, you got to behave, and if you don't behave, you go down. So it was a way to keep you being kind of in their system. It was very, it was a way that kept you kind of, I don't know how to explain it.
yeah. You could lose points for talking too close to a boy. Like if you guys were just sitting there talking, like if and you got more than like 3 feet away from each other, you could lose a point.
Or if you were swearing.
I wasn't a big swearer then. I was younger, so I wasn't a big swearer then.
And from what I remember too from other podcasts was, if you go into someone else's cabin, you get a point taken.
Oh, no, we had certain times that we were allowed to go into other people's cabins.
With another staff member, I think it would be.
No, we were allowed to. That might have changed then because we would go into, I mean, we weren't totally allowed to, but there was sometimes they gave us certain times like open hours or whatever that we were allowed to like communicate with others.
Okay. I'm sure there's a ton of other reasons too why you lose points, but for me too, it's been 20 years, so it's hard to remember these little
Right? Yeah, some of these
details.
are hard to recall.
But it's good to keep talking about it because it kind of brings up some things and it helps heal and it helps. I find for me being there for 20, it's been over 20 years. I think I was there maybe the same amount of time as you were. I was there 2002, 2003, which maybe we cross paths, maybe.
Right? I don't know, possibly.
So
If you were there in the summer around the like, yeah, I was there like spring, summer.
yeah, I was there. I think I probably got there maybe like June 2002, and I left. I think like August or something 2000, and
So we must have crossed paths
I was
because
there
you were there
13
for
months.
you were there for the 4th of July party and they got us all together. So you must have.
And it was my birthday. My birthday is 4th of July.
So we did like a pie eating contest, a watermelon eating contest that year.
I can't remember. I was probably there for a month, and I was probably like, "What the frick am I into right now?" So, what was it like being on level 1? Have you ever
Oh,
been on level 1?
yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been on level 1. I spent time in the isolation room. Yeah.
So, what was it like, the isolation room? Can you tell me what you remember it?
Oh yeah. It was you had to sit at the end of your bed and stare at a white wall all day long. You could not talk. You were only allowed to shower once a week when you were in there.
Oh, wow.
And then on top of that, you had to do workouts 3 times a day. We had to do one in the morning, we had to do one in the afternoon, and then one at night. And
How were those workouts?
um seriously, like when I was doing them, I was wondering how it was even legal that they were getting away with it.
They're tough.
They were really, really tough. Like the guy that ran them most of the time was ex-military drill sergeant.
Yeah,
Clay.
I think a lot of them were.
Clay was mine. I think that's what his name was. He was a
Yeah.
bigger gentleman.
I think it was Clay Sorensen, wasn't it?
Yep.
So he's one of the.
And he was mean. I watched him break a guy's arm during one of those workouts in a restraint.
Because he was resisting to do the workout, right?
Because he was tired. Yeah.
That's another question. What are the restraints?
I have in my adult life, I have been in situations now where I have been trained to do that type of stuff because I work with like special needs children and adults and stuff like that. And sometimes they tend to hurt themselves, and we do have to, restrain them to protect them. Um, and it is nothing like what they did to us as kids.
So what would be like,
They would basically how you see the police take down people now, and how all that stuff started with like, the cases and stuff like that the police were being brutal with on their
like
back, knees on their
like
back.
George Floyd and the
Yes.
guy
I didn't want to, but
with the
yes,
breathing?
that's what
Okay.
Clay did to us kids.
So from what I remember, it was they would bend your arms back to the point where it
In
would
the back.
break.
Yep.
And then
That's how his broke.
and they kind of told you, okay, if you move or you keep resisting, you're gonna break your arm, and it's not our fault, it's your fault for not
Correct.
resisting or whatnot.
And you could be sitting there being still saying, please stop, I'm not resisting. And they're like, stop resisting, stop resisting.
Yeah, that sounds
And
very
so
traumatizing for a minor.
I did get taken down once, and there was 2 staff members on me.
And you're 12 years old girl.
And I did not break 100 pounds till my freshman year in high school. Like, actually, Sorensons made me break 100 pounds because they put weight gainers in my food.
I didn't
Because they
even know
said
they
I
did
was
that.
underweight.
Wow.
But I didn't break 100 pounds. So you got to think I was only like, what, 97, 98 pounds. I didn't need 2 adults on me.
No. That's insane. So in other words, they were pretty tough restraints. They're pretty brutal and unnecessary and kind of unethical.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So what was it like working on the farm?
They had cows that we had to help take care of when I was there. The backfield, they had cows that we had to go and feed and give haze to. And if you were on level 1 or so, you had to go out and do that early in the morning. Some good things when I didn't start moving up in the levels, I was able to train a horse. What was Duran, I think was his name.
That was the name of the horse?
No, that was the guy that taught the horsemen.
Oh,
I did horsemanship. My horse was Oreo. It was a black and white colt, and I was there when it was born, and then I was able to start training it.
That's probably the best part about your stay was being able to work with the horses, have that kind of experience.
I could walk into like their pen, and he would come up and put his head on my shoulder and just walk out with me. I didn't have to hook him up to anything. I was able to walk him over and saddle him up. Like, it was probably the best connection that I had there.
Which is pretty surprising for me to know that the horses were that comfortable, because to me, I would think that most of these horses were abused and kind of treated a little bit poorly from either the students or neglection from the staff. So that's pretty awesome to hear that this horse was able to feel that kind of comfort with another human being, especially one of the students.
The ones that I worked with, like, that was that's what we looked forward to. That was our way out, was to go be with those horses and our animals that we took care of and stuff.
So, but for level 1, you would pretty much be working on a farm. You had no privileges. You wouldn't be in the isolation room, but you would be living like a very less privileged. And I think you would still have to work out. Or no, that was level 1. Maybe you start out at level 2. I can't remember. But at the same time, level 1 wasn't very fun. Like when you first get there, you have 2 whole weeks, no phone calls. You can't talk to your parents. You can't do anything besides work on the farm. And did you have to do the hay hauling? Yeah. You hauled the hay. So you would go around, because some girls tell me that it was only girls or the boys that had to do the hay. So for me, that's not what I remember. I remember it was everybody, girls, boys, but they would go separately. You would have the boys that would go with Bill, and then you might have the girls that go maybe with Bill separately or another counselor, and then they go haul the hay. And from what you remember, do you remember driving off to different fields in Koosharem to do the hay hauling?
No, the one that I mainly did was the one right there on the farm.
Okay, because this is what always boggles me now, 20 years later. Who was hay fields were we picking up the hay from? And who's getting this free labor? Because
Sorensons.
and whoever else I feel like lived in this town, which was most people that worked at this facility, but we were also maybe doing some other work for other people while they were getting paid. And here's a bunch of free labor from these teens, these miners, hauling your hay for you. I just find that just so awkward and weird. It's like, whose hay are we hauling?
Yeah.
Anyways, level 1 was pretty brutal. It was the hay, especially for minors, someone who's 12 years old, doesn't even weigh 100 pounds, and then in a wet bale of hay could weigh up to 90 pounds. So you're pretty much lifting your weight, and you don't have to just lift it. You have to lift it up over your
I
and
couldn't
throw it on the
lift
truck.
it. I would have to kick it off the truck for the people because I
Okay.
was too small. So I was kicking it off the truck.
I remember being quite small too. I'm still pretty short dude. And back then I was just a kid, and I remember I had to really like get in there, and they would get on you, be like, "Come on, boy, get that hay."
Oh yeah, no, they were mean.
So yeah, level 1 wasn't a very fun experience. All right, what's next? So what, I know you kind of talked about it a little bit, but what is the isolation room?
It was like a trailer. That's
Like
basically what it was. It was a trailer that had cubbies with a bed, and that was it. And you were put in there. The time that I was in there, actually, I do have a picture of him too. We almost got in trouble for this picture, but we turned out to be like really close when we were in there. His name is Chris.
he looks familiar.
That was on 4th of July, but I was in there with him, and I think not sure if you can totally see him, but
That looks like Jeff.
yeah. Okay, so they were both in there for killing one of the students' chickens. I guess is the story or something. I can't fully remember it, but we were all three in there. I can't remember what I got. I got put in for yelling with another student because we almost got into a fight because she wouldn't leave me alone.
So you pretty much were defending yourself, and they didn't really ask you why or what the hell is going on. They just decided to throw you in the isolation room, put you in an orange jumpsuit, throw you on level 1.
Yep.
That's very typical of the Sorensons.
So ours was like, because of the people that we had in there, we did break some rules, and we were able to talk. I can't remember his name, but there was one counselor that when he was in there, he would let us every once in a while talk and have like a little break. Otherwise, we were just staring at the wall the whole time. And literally, you were staring at a white wall. You could not sleep. If you started to fall asleep, you got in trouble. You'd have to stand. Like you had to sit at the end of your bed and stare at a white wall until your workout times or eating times.
And if you didn't do that, then you would get restrained, arms potentially broken, And that kind of made kids want to behave.
Look, he's in his brace right there in the picture on the 4th of July.
Oh, wow. Yeah, everyone looks familiar there.
And then that was Brittany with her back turned.
She was really into the horses and all that.
Yeah, she was one of them. Yep.
I'd say a lot of the students had a very different stay there. Some of them maybe a bit easier.
TJ, he had a girlfriend when he was there, and they were able to like meet and everything. It was really weird.
Huh. All
But
right,
yeah, I have pictures like right before I left and stuff like that. Some friends that we had there and everything.
No, the pictures are great. It really tells the story more. So we already kind of discussed what the workouts were like. So what was your top 3 worst experiences there?
That would be level 1, the workouts, the isolation room, and my counselor.
Who was your counselor?
I can't remember the guy's name. I had a guy though.
You had a guy counselor?
Yep.
That must have been kind of
That
weird.
would call me a slut and tell me I was a whore at home.
And you're 12 years old.
I was 12 years old.
And you're there because your father
Suicidal.
killed himself, and they're telling you that you're a slut and a whore. That seems very cruel.
Yeah.
So that was probably the worst 3 was isolation, level 1, and then your counselor kind of saying derogatory things to you. And I couldn't see that being very helpful for you because you have a counselor for the reason of trying to be your best friend / guide you, not best friend, but someone who's going to support you, be there for you and everything. Do you feel like this person helped you at all?
Oh no, he traumatized me for sure. I never wanted to trust therapists or counselors again, ever.
And you are in that kind of field of work now. Yeah, that speaks volume. So what is your 3 best experiences there?
Training Oreo, the horse. We did go on some pretty cool camping trips, and then level 5, I did get to level 5 and I got to live off campus at grandma's house. That's what we all called her, was grandma. I don't know if you remember her or not.
Yeah, we talk about her every podcast for some reason.
Yep. And so I lived with her, and when you were on level 5, when you got to go home after school, you were able to go to like a restaurant that was right there if you had some money and stuff. And us girls used to always go there and get like a basket of fries and fry sauce and just sit there, and like it was just amazing to be able to almost feel like you're doing something in the real world again. You know, like you're not trapped and in jail and isolated from everything. Like you're actually able to do something in the real world.
100%. 100%. I remember there was also a corner store where we would always go buy those Code Red Mountain Dews.
Yeah.
Because on the top of the caps, there was always this game where you can win one. So we would always be kind of looking under the cap, being like, did I win a free one? And,
yeah.
But let's be honest. So when you're living off campus and you're getting these high privileges, they're really just making up more space in the cabin so they can get more kids and students to come in here. And living off campus wasn't very much of a privilege because everybody around you in the houses worked at that rehab facility. And you were so brainwashed to the point when you're in level 5 that you don't want to run away. You don't want to like break any rules, because what happens when you run away? They come crawling back with their tail between their legs, scratched up. There's nowhere to go. There's one highway in, one highway out.
You didn't want to run away because of all the threats of the lions that they scared you with. You know, the wild animals will get you before we do, blah, blah, you know. I mean, there was no place to go.
Like it's not a lie to say that there was some type of manipulation and like brainwashing going on with the level systems and the points and the staff being very abusive, that made this whole kind of experience very traumatizing and made you scared. You didn't want to run away. You didn't want to misbehave. You didn't want to, God forbid, lose a point. You know? So living at these off-campus houses, yeah, they were great because you felt like you were away from the main part of it, but you still are in this town that's run by these crazy, obsessed, money greedy Mormons who run this facility, and it funds their whole entire town.
Yeah.
So that's a scary part. And what else do you think that was there that was positive?
I mean, the camping trips were fun. I think it was it Leland and Lisa? Or there was a couple, Leland and someone.
Lane,
maybe it was Lane.
Okay. I think Lane did some girl camping trips, and he also had an off-campus house that some girls would live at.
And he had a wife, right?
He had a wife, and he also ran the leather shop at
Yeah. So when they took us on a camping trip once, and it was so much fun. It was a great breakaway. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I heard he had some good camping trips, which I feel like
Um,
he only did with the girls that I can remember, because I don't remember
I
ever
have
being
like
offered
one
that.
picture of some of the girls on the camping trip. This is Heather and Anna. They were from Alaska too, so we kind of had like a
Yeah, it looks fun.
but they actually like let us go in there like in the pond and we were able to like, just goof around and just act like normal teenagers, act like normal kids. Like,
Yeah, it was an escape from the hell
yeah,
for a minute, and
yeah.
which is amazing that there was those opportunities. As bad and crazy as this place was, there still had its moments where you got away from it and you had a good time. Still doesn't take away from the abuse and sexual misconduct and crazy things that went on at this place. But hey, take it if you can get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in your
Yeah, see, that
opinion,
was on the camping trip. I was actually smiling and happy.
yeah, I would imagine probably the best time of that whole 6 months that you were there was being able to go and get away from it all. A little bit of taste of the real world for a second, just like when you would go and have those fries and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So, in your opinion, do you feel that the ranch has helped you?
No, it didn't.
No.
No. The students teased me because I was a goody two shoes. Because like the stuff that they were there for, I had never even
Heard of.
thought of doing or anything, like I was like, whoa. Um, yeah, I mean, I met uh a 13-year-old that was already on the streets and having to like prostitute herself and stuff like that. I met a lot of girls that were like into drugs, that were into a lot of, sex and stuff. Like I learned things there, bad things from the students because I had no idea about any of it.
It was almost like a school where it just teaches you to be even worse kid.
Yeah. And I was a goody two shoes, so I got made fun of because I was just there for being suicidal and I wasn't into drugs or into boys a whole lot or anything like that, like I wasn't at that.
Do you think that you would send your kids to this place?
Oh, hell no.
No? Why not?
Hell no. No. Not just no. That it's a hell no. Sorry if we're not allowed to curse, but
Oh, you can say whatever you want, however you want
okay.
to say it.
Yeah, no, that would be a big, big no.
And if you can say anything to any like parents or mothers out there that want to send their or looking at sending their kids there, what would you say to them?
I mean, I have heard that it's changed. I have heard different stories from students that have been there after me that supposedly it's not as rough as it was when we went, but I still wouldn't. If your kid is in that situation, they need you. They need your love, not somebody else's, and not to be sent off somewhere.
Have you heard about the girl who was her name was a Sorensen, and she flew off to LA and had sex with one of the minor students and then went to jail?
I did not hear about that.
That just came out 2017. I'm just pulling it up right now on my phone to
That
show
is
you.
crazy.
And now it's forbidden. They've taken it down. Holy shit. And that was like a day ago that I was reading it again. So this, man, I really love to have read that to you. And then this year or yeah, this year they have an article that came out saying Utah ranch for troubled teens could lose its license for subjecting kids to forced labor and repetitive walking, which
Yep.
is like it's not even scratching the surface of the craziness that goes on there. But
Well, maybe
just
your podcast will end up helping in a way.
maybe it'll just help people heal like myself and you and anybody else who decides to come on here and kind of tell your story a little bit. It's every episode has been that I've recorded has been almost around 2 hours, if not a little shorter, if not a little longer. And I feel like we never scratched the surface of that person's story or the surface of the history and the crap that goes on at this place.
But yeah, I would never send my kid there. I would never do that damage to them.
That's why I was trying to read you that article, is because a lot of people think, oh yeah, it must be getting better. It must be getting better. But how can it get better when the place is still ran by the same abusive people who are shoving and all this stuff under the rug all the time? And they know what's going on. People get fired and people have all these crazy things happen to them, like sexual misconduct, and they just sweep it under the rug. They don't tell anybody. They kind of keep everything
Mm-hmm.
in their little town. And I don't think any place that has that history should be able to exist.
Mm-mm.
So, so tell me a little bit about life after leaving the ranch for you.
I rebelled. I lashed out. I didn't know how to get back into real world and stuff like that for a minute, because of the brainwashing. And all the stuff that the students taught me and everything like that. I used it against my mother because I was hurt. And then I couldn't go to a counselor to talk about it because I was scarred from my counselor there.
That's fair. So you would say it was a pretty rough go. It took probably a little bit of time to shake
Yep.
it off. How long do you think it took you until you're able to kind of start living your life in a normal way, or have you even healed yet from it?
I don't think I fully have healed from Sorensons. I do now see a counselor as like myself. For I have PTSD. Part of it is from Sorensons Ranch. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm still dealing with because of it.
So you would say it's something that maybe you still talk about with your therapist,
Yes.
and it's been over 20 years now.
Yep. Oh, yeah, I was there 2002. So yeah, almost 20 years fully.
That's insane, and that these people can just have a place that exists like this
And
when
it's
they're
still
saying,
open.
when they
Parents are
claim,
still sending their kids.
and they claim to be sending to help troubled teens, to help with this and deal with this and that, and there's people that go there and they're still traumatized after 20 years of going there. That's
Mhm.
just crazy. So what were the people like who ran or owned the ranch? Like, tell me your opinion on that.
Some seem like they were really nice and caring. There was a few out of there. My caseworker was Miss Maxine, who ran like the laundry room and stuff like that. Do you remember her?
So your therapist or your,
My
because you're,
counsel, my
because you're,
not my therapist, but my like one-on-one guidance counselor or
I,
whatever.
th-
Not my
I thought you
therapist.
said you had a guy counselor.
No, that was my like therapist that I actually had to go see and stuff like that.
Oh,
You know,
okay. So that was your therapist, and then Maxine was your
like one-on-one
one-on-one. Oh,
counselor.
okay. See, I misunderstood that earlier, which is okay.
Yeah. So, and I mean, she was nice to a point,
Yeah. Well,
but
now I kind of want to go back a little bit actually and say, like, that's actually even worse that your therapist was the one who was calling you a slut and a whore. What kind of therapy is that?
I don't know.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I
that was
thought
my
it,
actual like in-house therapist that we had to go see like upstairs. They had those upstairs rooms with where you had
yeah.
like group counseling and stuff like that. Yeah.
Would you
Yep.
say that the counselors were in the staff there were qualified for their jobs?
No. They were like family members that were just brought in. They didn't know what they were actually doing.
And what do you think about the owners? Do you think that they're just sitting back collecting money? Like, do you think they have any interest in helping kids?
No. And if they did and they do know what's going on, then they're pretty sick in the head because of all the stuff that goes on. Like they should know you should not be running a school like that.
So I want to go a little bit. Can you tell me if you remember after your first 2 weeks when you're finally when you finally behaved well enough where you're able to make your first phone call and speak with your mother or whoever your first phone call was? Can you remember that?
You are not allowed to talk about this. You are not allowed to talk about this. You only talk about this, or we will cut you off.
You'll go to level 1 or whatnot.
Yep.
So it was a pretty tough phone call, you remember?
Yeah, I was crying just saying that I missed them because that's all pretty much.
You're allowed to say.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty traumatizing just to know that they kind of try and in 2 weeks get so much control over you that and then they finally get to talk to your parents, and that's all you can say is, oh, I miss you, and I'm not even allowed to say what's going on, how I feel. It's pretty traumatizing for a kid, man. It's so easy to it's okay. It's so easy to manipulate someone who's that young of an age.
We're not gonna call daddy right now. Can you go play right now? Mommy be almost done soon. My 2-year-old's coming in.
That's okay.
But yeah, it was definitely traumatizing.
Well, that's the least to say. If you're still having some healing to do after over 20 years, then you're a lot like me in a way, because I decided this is the most important thing, and it's been very healing for me to be able to talk about this place. And I'm just really I feel like I'm really able to heal the most by talking to you and hearing your story and kind of like relating, and I can kind of be like, yeah, F this place. This place is kind of BS, and it's kind of really ruined a lot of things for me. Even though I always say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and I don't have any regrets in this life, that doesn't take away how effed up and abusive this place was.
Right, like you can see how squished in they had us. So there's one bunk bed, there's 2 bunk bed, there's even a bed on the floor because they had so many of us in one cabin, all living there.
Yeah, it was pretty tight in there. And if you're lucky, you'd be in a cabin with people you like, and you know.
Do you remember Tom?
Oh yeah, definitely remember Tom. That's weird to see a picture of him. You have to send me that.
Okay.
That's great. He gets mentioned in every podcast. He's one of the characters that really stand out. The Norm?
Yep. Norman, his wife.
Yeah, I don't remember him too well, but as soon as you showed me the picture, I knew exactly who he was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy. So what else do I have here? I think we're starting to wrap it up a bit here. We're getting through these questions pretty quick. But I'm really loving the conversation. It's great to hear your story. What so from what you could remember, was there any, or have you heard, or do you remember any sexual misconduct that went on at the ranch with any of the staff or any of the students?
Not when I was there, or at least
No.
it didn't get talked about. Yeah.
And what about abuse? Any abuse that you can remember that was going on besides
The physical abuse? Yeah. Mental abuse? Oh, yeah. They got it all covered.
okay, so it's safe to say that there is some abuse going on as far as sexual misconduct. There's nothing that you could remember that sticks out.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well,
I'm surprised they're still opening. They're still open. They're still running. I mean, it was shocked when I found the page. I was a little shocked, and I was like, no way they're still sending kids there. Like, this place is still open.
it almost makes your blood boil. You're like, wow, how can I heal from this? This is still going on. There's still 12-year-old girls that are getting sent to this place. And
then when I
kinda,
left, they were like, oh, well, you're going to be back. You're going to be back.
did you ever have any dreams of being there again, being sent back there?
Yeah.
I used to
And
have
then some of like
nightmares.
the pickup stories, like the horror pickup stories that I've heard, Like Gabby's pickup story was so scary. Like they even put like a bag over her head.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thought mine was bad.
Like they came into her room when she was sleeping and like woke her up and told her to get dressed and stuff like that. And like we're getting her dressed. Like they were in her room while she was sleeping. Like it was crazy. Like she thought she was like almost being kidnapped. Like she said that's what it felt like.
Yeah, it definitely does. Definitely does. When I got picked up, I was living in Canada because that's where I'm from and I still live there. And my mother, I guess these two guys opened my door and I thought maybe my mother was showing the house or some workers were working on the house. So I was like, get out of my room, 7 a.m., like, get the heck out of here. And I think they closed the door. And then 5 minutes later, they opened it and they're like, you're going to have to come with us. And I'm like, for the fuck I am. My
Yeah,
mother,
right.
my mother's crying and she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like, for what? I don't understand what the heck was going on. And then they have so two guys and then a young kid who was 18 who was hired to chase me down if I ran away. And
See,
lu-
sometimes they would bring the level 5 kids to do that.
luckily, well, this was a past student that was living in New York, which is a 5 hour drive from Montreal. So luckily in Canada, it's illegal to shackle anybody or put anyone in handcuffs for a minor like that, which apparently wasn't in the States. So most kids that I knew, they were in shackles and thrown in a car and driven there. But for me,
Yep.
I had to go across the border, get on a plane, and fly out there. And I was stubborn. I did not want to go with these men. As soon as we got to the border, I told them, hey, these guys are kidnapping me. My parents had to come pick me up. We spent a night at our parents, at my step parents' cottage, which is in Stowe, which is just in the States or something. So I think we already got across the border or close to it or something. And they pretty much, I thought I was safe. And I was like, okay, I can convince them that I'm going to be a good boy and I'm not going to go to this crazy place that they're trying to get me at, which they won't really tell me much. And I decided, I was like, I'll go along with it because he said he'll buy me a pack of cigarettes. And I'm 15 years old. I'm like, well, yeah, I just want a fucking cigarette and I want to like hang out with my friends and whatever. And let's just get this over with. I think I'll be there for a week or two and then I'll be home. I've heard of a lot of my friends going to um, places that were like juvie detention centers that when they would go for a week or they ran away and it was super easy to run away. I didn't realize I
Yep.
was going to Utah in the middle of nowhere. So I was like, all right, let's go. I just want to make my mom happy. And if I go somewhere for 2 weeks, it's only 2 weeks, big deal. And whatever. They obviously really want me to go because they're all crying and having this huge cry fest. And I'm just like, whatever. It's like I don't want to make a big deal out of it. So I go anyways. And 13 months later, it's like that was the worst experience of my entire life. I'm still traumatized from it. And like I said, I have dreams about it quite often. And I'll wake up and I'll be like, what the hell was that? How am I still dreaming about being there after like 21 years?
Was the gym and like workout area still in like in a jail cell? Like it had like the metal bars around it and stuff like that when you went there?
I don't remember, to be honest.
You don't
That's
remember it being like in a cage?
I, I remember you can go upstairs in the gym and that's where the couches and TV was.
Oh, so I never went upstairs.
You never went upstairs?
Not in the gym, no.
Oh, weird. I thought everybody would have, like the girls and the guys separately would have been able to go up there. Maybe you're always on like level 1 or something.
No. I mean, I was in the gym class and everything, but I just remember like the workout room, like we were like locked in a cage.
Okay, yeah, that does sound familiar. I feel like there was one exit in, one exit out,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and then I think there was a door, and then that was where the gym was, where it was probably blocked off. And then I think, yeah, maybe there might have been a window or two. They could have had a cage on the window, but it wasn't very like there wasn't very much windows in there because we were in there every day. Every time that there would be a dinner or something, they would do the roll call where they would count everybody and you'd have to say your name. And it would start off in the gym and then we can go into the mess hall and eat dinner.
Hmm.
it's hard to remember these things after so long too,
I
right?
know.
So a lot of
Like I
them,
remember that the girls had a line up outside the mess hall.
that could have been it. Maybe we all did roll call at the same time. The girls did yours your way, we did ours way. And
Yeah.
I remember we'd always have to go into the gym, and then they would do the roll call, and then we would go off and eat.
Yeah. And you had to sit like on opposite sides of the table of the opposite sex. You couldn't be closer to 3 feet. They did have a soda machine there, but they made you feel like crap when you drank soda because it had caffeine in it.
But at the same time, you would get an allowance if you're lucky. It was about $1 when you're on level 2 or 3, and then it went up to maybe about $5 to
Yep.
$10. And all the money would go back into their pop and candy machines. And
Yep.
we literally, I think it costs between like $2,000 to $4,000 a month to send your child there. They literally made so much money, and they couldn't even have decent food or anything. Like,
Did you ever get to do the late movie nights when you were up on higher levels and get to go into the cabin and have movie nights?
no, I didn't have that. Not
You
late
didn't get to do
nights.
that?
I mean, it wasn't late. It would be like after dinner, we'd watch a movie, and
Yeah.
then we'd all be in bed by 9.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was always some staff that were more accepting and nicer than other staffs, and depending if you're on their good side or bad side. And to be honest, I never got in level 1 or got in trouble once. I flew through the level system. I just kind of, like I said it before in an early episode, that I was just on my first day, and one of the staff, after like saying some rude comment, just grabbed me, threw me down the stairs, grabbed me by my throat, and just kind of pretty much that made everything make sense to me. I'm just like, you either follow the system and just kind of go with the flow of things just to get the fuck out of here. There's no point in making this worse for yourself. And that part is pretty much since that day one, I never got in trouble, never opened my mouth, and I just worked that system because I saw kids that were so tough and breaking them, and it was just not worth it. I was just a smart kid. I realized this is not worth getting in trouble. And for me being so great, I thought I'd be out of here in 3 months, like the easiest cases that people have there. There's some kids that come in for 3 months and they're discharged and they're gone. I was there for 13 months because my therapist kept saying I'm not working my program. I need more time. I need more time. And to be honest, I was working the program. I was doing the therapy. I was doing the schooling. I was doing everything in my power. But they were convincing my parents, oh, you have to have him here. He's not ready. He needs to keep working the program. He's not ready to be out yet. My parents were convinced I needed to be here till I was 18 years old. It was crazy.
Yeah. They try to convince you to keep them there that long.
Do you feel like there's a reason for that? Do you feel like they're actually trying to help you? Or do you feel like maybe in their sick way, they're just like, I want to keep you here so I can get more money and we can keep getting a paycheck and we can keep have this place
Having
running.
The free labor. The free labor. Yeah.
So there's a lot of things going on with that, and it's just so wrong. It's just so wrong. Well, is there anything else you want to add or talk about? Do you have any stories that you feel would be good for this podcast?
I don't know. I think I pretty much shared everything or tried to.
I feel like we have too, and like I said, every time we do this, it doesn't feel like we scratched the surface, but I do feel like we have been talking for a while, and we did cover a lot of things. I mean, we can go into maybe talking about the lodge and the cafeteria and the food that was there. We can talk about the schooling. I mean, there's a few other things that I did miss, but I feel like if there's nothing else you want to add, we can stop it here. And if you ever want, we can always do another episode sometime down the line as well.
I guess if we get like lots of questions or something, we could do another episode, but
yeah, I'm down with that. I feel like a second episode for everybody would be great.
for sure.
All right. Well, with that being said, I want to thank you for really, pouring your heart out and speaking your story and kind of joining me here and having the the patience of putting up with me and my crazy questions. And I think it's very healing for me to be able to hear your story, and I hope it can be for somebody else that's listening or that's went there. And yeah, if that's it, then I'm just gonna thank you and appreciate your time, and I'll be in touch, and I think this was a great episode. So thank you.
Thank you. All
Yeah, no worries. Enjoy your day, and we'll chat soon.
right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, isn't that a great episode? So now stay tuned for the next episode, which is going to be another girl who attended SRS, and we'll see you at the end. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. We got our guest today. Can you tell us your name?
Lonnie. When I went to Sorensons, my last name was Hayduck, and now it's Gilherm.
Oh, wonderful. You upgraded.
I did. 2009. I upgraded. I was there in 2000. I upgraded in 2009.
So where you come from? I'm in Victoria, for anyone that didn't know, Victoria, British Columbia in Canada, recording out of my barber shop, like always. And yeah, where are you from?
I'm from Oshawa, Ontario, Canada. I left here in, I can't remember if it was March or April of 2000, and my parents drove me down. So it took a week to a week and a half to actually get to the Sorensons. And then my parents dropped me off, and I actually wanted to go. Believe it or not, I actually wanted to go because I was in a lot of trouble here. I dropped out of school, and I was like, yeah, let's go for it. Let's do it. So I kind of picked the school that I wanted to go to, and I said, let's go there. So they dropped me off, and then they drove all the way back home. And
I think it's just so amazing to speak to somebody else from Canada that's went to this place, because I went there probably about a few years later than you went there, and I've never even heard of anybody coming from Canada. And I used to get kind of made fun of a lot. All the kids would be like, "Oh, look at this guy." They used to call me Canuck, or they used to just make fun of me a lot. And it had its advantages as well, because people were kind of like, "Oh, he's Canadian. Oh, blah blah," and like I felt like people were kind of like more chill with me in a way, or sort of say, or they felt bad maybe. I don't know.
it wasn't too bad. Like, I actually blended in very, very well. I think my personality helped because I was more of a party animal when I left here. So I kind of just jumped right in, and with 2 feet and 2 hands when I got there, type of thing. And like, I remember, I think I was there 2 months, and there was actually another girl that came in. She was from Alberta.
Crazy.
And I remember she got into a lot of trouble when she was there. She was in isolation, and she was restrained several times. And I only remember being restrained once, and it was probably the day after I got there because I refused to clean the dining room. So they put me on the fence, and then they came out and they started yelling at me about why I wasn't cleaning. And I can't remember. I think it was Tom.
Yeah,
And
that's funny. That's
Tom's
funny because
daughter,
he gets mentioned a lot in this podcast.
Oh God, I actually liked him. Like, I thought he was one of the best ones there after a while, but like the first couple of days that I was there, I think it was just a matter of trying to get settled and get into a routine and figure out what this place is about. And I was just having none of it. So I remember
None of it. It's a Canadian joke.
Yes, it is. So yeah, it wasn't too bad. I remember there was another guy there that came from Egypt as well. They actually went to Egypt to pick him up.
Holy moly, that's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to get into a few questions that I have for you that I kind of like to go through to get the most story and the viewers the most information and picture they can of this place. And it's a work in progress. So obviously we know who you are. What was your age when you went there?
I was 17 because I turned 18 in the October. So I left probably about a week after my birthday. My birthday was October 22nd, and my mom sent plane tickets for me to leave a week after my birthday. So I was there from 17 to 18, and for, I don't know if you knew this, but in Ontario specifically, you're technically an adult when you're 16, so you can kind of do what you want when you're 16. You don't have to go to school if you don't want to. You don't have to go do anything if you don't want to. But when I went to the States, it was kind of different because you kind of were not an adult till you were 18. And it was really weird for me being told what to do, because I was like, I came from somewhere in a country where 16, you were an adult. You could do what you wanted. I didn't have to go to school if I didn't want to. I didn't have to do this if I didn't want to. So it was really different. It took me a couple weeks before I was actually able to get settled and get my feet planted.
Okay. To be honest, I wasn't aware of the 16 being an adult thing. Maybe I was just there so early. I think I was 15 when I was there, or just turned 16, like 15, and then a month later I was 16. And maybe I got bamboozled, and I, if I would have waited one more month, I would have been okay.
Well, like, that's the thing is, like, I don't know if it's the same thing or not anymore. For here, mind you, I have 4 kids, so I guess I'll find out soon enough. But yeah, it was really difficult from going from here, where I didn't have to go to school, I could do what I wanted, going there, and I have to be told, this is what you have to do. You don't have a choice.
Well, not just told what to do. You're kind of placed in a Mormon crazy place in the middle of Utah that really is a lot different than most people have to go through.
Yes, I definitely agree with that.
So you still live in Ontario with your 4 kids?
Yep.
Okay,
So
cool.
I grew up in Oshawa. I now live in Whitby, which is like literally a 5-minute drive away. So I haven't gone very far. I have lived in, I did go to Salem State University for a couple of years in Massachusetts. And I think where else I lived a couple other places in Ontario, but I came back and pretty much settled in the same place I started.
Oh, that's awesome. So I always ask, what the next question is always, tell me about your pickup and how old and how long, but you already kind of explained that instead of having a pickup, you kind of went through voluntarily. So maybe I'll switch the question up and be like, since you went voluntarily, was it something that you expected? Were you like happy with your decision, or did you feel like, okay, maybe this isn't what I was kind of signing up for?
I kind of knew what I was signing up for because I kind of researched it, and there was a few other places that my parents said that I had to choose from. So they kind of left the decision to me. The problem was I wasn't expecting it to be as strict as it was when I got there. So, for example, I was a big Stephen King reader. I had all of his books and everything, and I took a couple of them with me, and they wouldn't actually let me have any of my books that I took because apparently Stephen King's writings are against their school policy.
Is it the school policy or is it the Mormon religion?
I don't know. I just remember being really upset and pissed off because I was like, I purposely brought these books so that I would have something to do out in the middle of nowhere. And now I'm being told I can't even have myself entertained with stuff that I enjoy doing.
So that came kind of a shock to you. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then this is what's going to be going on now. It's like, I can't even read Stephen King. Like, this is going to be an interesting adventure.
Oh yeah, pretty much. And then as soon as I remember, as soon as I got into the office, they literally took me and like searched me and everything else and told me I was only allowed to wear certain clothes, and none of this was brought up to me or my parents or anything before we even came. So it was kind of like something that was just like spontaneous brought on.
It's kind of a shock.
Yeah. So it was like when I was there, we were actually still allowed to wear clothes that we wanted to wear to a certain point. And in 2000 was the year where they changed their clothing policy. So they decided that all of those colors, like the reds, the blues, they're all gang related. And because there were so many gang people coming, to stay there, they weren't allowed to wear those colors. So that's when we switched over to the gray t-shirts and the blue jeans only.
Yeah,
Before
that's how it was
that-
when I was there. That's interesting that change happened while you were there.
Yep. So they literally came in, told us to pack up all of our clothes, put them in garbage bags. They took them up to the attics, and then they gave us these other clothes that they took out of the linen if we didn't have them or if our parents couldn't send them. And like my parents are like, I'm not sending you like $300 worth of clothes from Canada. And I sent her with a whole suitcase full of clothes. So I got whatever was in the linen room.
Yeah. And was
And
that the same room where grandma was? That was her name. The lady that worked, her name was Grandma, and she would issue clothes and stuff. Same thing.
Yeah, same exact
Okay.
setup. You go in the laundry room, here's my laundry. She'd give you all, like if you needed shampoo or you needed a razor, whatever it was, she'd give you the stuff. The only thing that really pissed me off was when I left, they never gave me my clothes back.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Probably still
They had no
sitting in their
idea.
attic somewhere.
Well, and they were like, I have no idea where it went. Well, you took it from me. You put it in garbage bags and now you have no, like it was ridiculous trying to get out of there.
No, I can imagine. That sounds a little bit of a pain in the butt and a little bit mean at the same time.
Yeah.
So what was kind of your first impressions about just getting there? And do you remember it? Can you explain maybe how the farm, the school, and everything from your memory was when you first got there?
So when I first went in there, as I said, like I was a bit upset. I was thrown back with what they were taking away from me. And then I wasn't expecting to be searched and everything else. And then my parents left and I was like, oh, okay, now I'm at school by myself. Making the friends wasn't the hard part. It was kind of trying to get into the routine that they were already in. So I'm used to a certain routine here in Canada, and then I'm in a school now all of a sudden in the States where I have to be up at a certain time, go to school at a certain time, have cleaning and chores and everything else, which I'm not used to. So I think that's kind of why the first couple of days that I got there, I ended up in isolation for a couple of days. I was restrained by Tom. I was kind of just like, I wasn't expecting it. So I kind of just, all my emotions just hit me at once. After I got over that big hump and I got out of that, all of those emotions and everything that came at me, it was actually fun. Like I didn't mind it. I worked the levels. Everything was great. I got to go on the horseback riding trails and everything else. See things that I would never be able to expect to see in my life. Like going
Yeah,
up to
you
the
kind of
mountain
took the situation as best as you can and made the best of it, especially since you're volunteering to go. You're kind of like, okay, I made a decision for a reason. Let's work the program. Let's do what we need to do to get to the next level.
right. And then all of a
So-
sudden, yeah.
Sorry, I was just gonna ask because I forgot earlier. What was the reason why you decided to go there, or why your parents decided to send you there? I mean, you're coming all the way from Ontario, Canada. It seems like.
Right. So as I said, in Ontario, you can't be held anywhere after you're 16 unless you approve it. So if I was to go to a place like that in Ontario, I would easily be able to just walk out at any time I want. They can't legally hold me there because I'm technically an adult. So by sending me to the States, I'm not allowed to leave if I'm 16 or 17. I have to wait till I'm 18 before I can make any decisions. So the States was kind of like the only option for me. And that being said, my parents and I never really got along. Like we were just always fighting and arguing, and I was kind of just getting into a lot of trouble, and I didn't like where my life was going, where I looked at it and I knew where I was kind of headed. So that's when I said to my parents, okay, yeah, let's just do this. And so I researched places and did all that on my own, and then made a decision. Yes, let's go. Let's just do this. I picked this place. Let's go here.
That's
I
awesome.
yeah, I think I picked it mostly because I liked the horseback riding, and everything else sounded really, really good. The only downfall was when I think it was around August or September. So it was a couple months before I left. They didn't like how quickly I was working up the ladder So with the levels from 1 to or 2 or whatever it was up to 5, I forget what it is now, but they didn't like how fast I was going up, so they threw me back at level 1.
So you didn't get in trouble. They just threw you back at level 1 for no apparent reason.
Yes, because they said I was playing the system.
See, that's
And
another thing that I hear commonly about this place. And do you feel like they might be kind of using this kind of strategy as kind of a business to kind of keep you there longer and just keep getting another month's payment from your parents to kind of keep you there?
it's possible. Like, I knew I was there until I was 18 anyways, because I wanted to be there until I graduated high school. Because that's the one thing I wanted to make sure I did was I took extra classes, I did extra work, I raced through my work just to be able to get the courses I need to graduate. Because that was one thing that I wanted to get done that I just never got done here because I just fell in with the wrong crowd and I got into so much trouble.
Yeah,
So
and they offer such a great schooling there where you can literally just go to your class. You can bang through all these courses. It's one-on-one sometimes, and it's easy, and you can get I think you can get like a good grades and all that. So it's
mhm.
kind of weird that they didn't just let you work your program while you're behaving, do your thing, finish your school while you're there, and then go on. It's not like you got in trouble or anything. That just seems very typical of this place.
Yeah, Kelsey was my what was it? What I don't know what they were called, therapists or your one-on-one counselors or whatever it was.
So yeah, you have
And I
one
love
counselor and you have one
yeah.
therapist.
Okay, so she was my counselor, I think. I don't know how it worked. I can't remember, but Kelsey was the one that was always coming and talking to me and being like, we need to put you back on level 1 because you're playing the program, you're not doing what you're supposed to, talking about your feelings. You shouldn't be coming in here and going from A to B so quickly. And so like any chance they got, like I used one swear word, they took points off. They just like nitpicked at you just to be able to do anything to keep you at the lower levels. And it was like, and like any of the, like I was friends with a few of the people that were level 4s and 5s, and it was like, they were there for 2 or 3 years before they got up to that level. And
Wow.
it was like, I was just blown away. Like, I was just like, okay, this is how it's going to be. And then I remember 3 nights before I had to leave, one of the male counselors came to me and said, yeah, someone keeps saying that you're going to run away or something. And I'm like, why would I run away? I want to go back to my own country. So they kept putting me in isolation every night. So I had to sleep in isolation every night until I left.
Can we talk about 2 things? First of all, what's the level system like, and what is isolation?
So isolation is a building that they have over by the barn. It's on the male side of the school. Sorry. There's the girls' side, then they have the main hall, and then there's the boys' side. Over on the boys' side is where there's an isolation building, and it's literally just like say a guest house, except the whole facility is open. You have a closet-sized shower, you have a closet-sized toilet, and you have, I think there's 6 beds in there, and the only thing separating the beds is like a wall, and there's a mattress on the floor, and then there's one counselor that sits behind a desk at the front of the room, like a portable, almost like, I guess you could compare it to a portable.
And
And that's
when I
literally,
was there, you were able to sit in the front of the bed. You couldn't lay down. You couldn't stretch. Nothing. You had to just sit right in the edge of the bed and stare at the wall that's right in front of you. Was it the same?
it depended on the counselor.
Okay.
It really did depend on the counselor, because I know with some of the counselors, they were like that. Some of them were stuck up to the point where they'd be like, yeah, you can't do anything. And then other counselors were like, yeah, you can read a book, here's a book, lay down, have a nap, do whatever you got to do, type of thing. They would have fun with us.
Okay, so you
So it
would say
wasn't,
almost like they had their rules where you're supposed to be very disciplined, but then there were some counselors that were lenient and they would kind of give you more of an option.
yeah, some of them would even play cards with us.
See,
So
that's
sometimes being in there, it wasn't so bad. It was actually fun.
that does sound all right.
But yeah, it wasn't as fun as I'm making it out to be. But when you were stuck in there, it was fun when you had those counselors with you.
Well, just from my experiences and from stories that I have heard, and I was there just a few years later than you, there was no card playing, and it was very tough to endure being in isolation. Do you remember anything like the workouts, or do you remember
Oh
any of
yes.
the extra disciplines where they would take you out of the isolation room and make you sleep on a tent up in the mountains?
Um, I never heard about the tents on the mountains. That one I never heard about unless you were on like an actual camping trip. You were level three, I think you had to be 3 or 4 to go on the camping trips. That's the only time I heard about anything on the mountains. But I remember the workouts, like if you were level 1 on Saturdays and Sundays, you usually had to go for a 2 to 3 hour hike, sometimes 4 hours. And during the week, or sometimes even at night during the week, you'd go on the hikes as well for a shorter time period, maybe an hour. But you'd literally do a workout in the gym for 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, so it'd be hiking, going to the gym, and the gym was just a bunch of like workouts, kind of like doing like push-ups and running laps around. Was it similar?
Oh yeah, so we did, I think it was 10 to 15 laps, if not 20. And then we had to do push-ups, sit-ups, jumping jacks. Oh, wall sits were the worst. They made us sit there and do wall sits. Oh my God, they were the worst. And then like, even if you were not feeling good or you were sick or something and you couldn't do the workout, they would make you bring your blanket or whatever with you, and you had to go sit on the side of the wall or stand on the side of the wall and do nothing. You just had to be like, yep, that was it.
So what was the leveling system like? Do you remember?
Um, I think there was, I can't remember if there was 4 or 5 levels. Level 1 was pretty much the bottom of the barrel where you were in a cabin. I remember the girls' cabin, the first floor was on the right side. There was 4 bunk beds. The bathroom was in the middle as soon as you open the door. And then on the left side, there was 4 more bunk beds. And then you went upstairs and there was 3 different beds upstairs, 3 rooms upstairs. And then once you got into level 2, you can move into the next cabin, which had 4 to 6 beds in it, which were bunk beds again. And then you just kept moving up and going further and further.
So basically, it
But
was like you get on level 1, you're in a lot of trouble, and then the less trouble you're in, the higher the level is.
right, so like level 2, you could go swimming every
Yeah.
week. Level 3 and 4, you could go on camping trips. You could go on horseback riding, camping trips, that kind of thing.
And it
I
was all
forget what.
run by a point system. Can you tell us about a little bit about the point system?
I can't remember what the points were. All I remember is that like if you swear, you got points taken off. You got in fight, you got points taken off. I don't know what I can't remember where the numbers were to level it out. I just
But
remember
but
like,
but basically, it was if you did anything that was pretty much in their eyes wrong or whatever, you would get points taken away, and that would determine if you're going to move up a level or go down a level.
right.
So, what is your top 3, maybe top 3 worst, maybe top 3 best experiences?
Probably the worst experience was when I first got there and I had to go through the being restrained and then put in isolation, because that didn't really put a good feel in my body for having to stay there for the next year or so. But I did have a couple of really good experiences. Like I went on one of the horseback riding trips and that was absolutely amazing to do. And then we also went on a camping trip. I forget which lake it was in. I don't know if it was in Utah or if it was in Nevada. And we got to go tubing and take a look at like amazing cliffs and got to experience quite a bit of different things when we were on level 3 and 4. And that was really exciting because I got to see a lot of the states and experience a lot of different things. I think like, and it was nice to be able to graduate, especially with my marks and everything. We're able to get up there, and I was able to get into good schools and everything like that. Overall, it wasn't, for me, it wasn't a horrible experience. It was just
Okay.
horrible when it came down to not being able to get out of level 1, because it seems like, because once I got stuck in that level 1, they made it almost impossible for people to get out of it. No matter how hard you tried or what you did, you didn't
Did you
get out of it.
did you feel like the staff that went there were qualified?
I don't think they were qualified. Definitely not. Like, when you look at how things are run in Canada and the training and everything that people have to go through to be able to work at a facility like that. And I've worked at youth centers here in Ontario. And let me tell you, there's the training and the education that you have to go through to be able to actually help the kids that go to these places. There's no way that any of those people had that training. They didn't know how to talk to you. They didn't know how to work with you. They didn't know how to have like an actual conversation with you. I felt like it was mostly like, yeah, you did this wrong today, so you're in trouble.
And
So instead of saying,
what do you feel
sorry,
about do you know any of the owners or like people that ran this place? What is your opinion on them? Like, do you feel like they're good people?
honestly, I never met, I think I saw, I feel like I saw the owner, the grandfather or the father. He was around once or twice. He died, I think, shortly after that.
Really?
But I think
Wow.
the son was this, because the son took over after that.
I think it
The
was
son or the
Shane,
grandson.
right?
Yeah. And I don't really remember running into him too much, so I don't really know much about them. To me, though, it seemed like they were kind of just in it for the money. Like, if you weren't in it for just the money, you would have made the living accommodations a bit more comfortable, and you would have made sure the staff had proper training.
What is the restraints? What like what was that like? And how was it? How violent was it?
To be honest, it happened so fast. I don't really remember. Like, 1 minute I'm kicking Tom in the balls, and the next minute my face is on the ground.
And did you ever see anyone else get restrained?
There was a couple of people that got restrained. I shouldn't say that. There was a few people that got restrained, and it seemed like it was always Tom that was doing it or someone else. So it seemed like the people that were actually doing the restraining were actually taught how to do it properly so they don't break your arm. That being said, who really knows? But it literally was a matter of taking the person, twisting their arms behind their back and throwing them on the ground, and then
Okay.
stepping on their legs. That's pretty much it. It's just to the point of not being able to have that person move.
Okay. And they would pretty much put you in a position. So if you moved, it would be your fault if your arms broke. That's what I remember.
Yes.
So did you ever see anybody with a broken arm or?
There was one kid that had a broken arm, but that was because he was sitting on the boys' side. There was 2 levels. I forget which cabin it was, but he was sitting in one of the windowsills that didn't have the screen, and he literally fell out the window, and they had to call an ambulance. Yeah.
So did you go to the therapy? What did you think of the therapy there?
So I went to,
Well,
I went
everyone
to,
goes to do. It's mandatory, I believe. You have to
yeah,
do.
I was put in anger management, and then I had my private therapist as well. And he wasn't too bad. Like, he actually seemed to know what he was doing and how to talk to you and how to bring out a conversation and he actually seemed like he wanted to help. And then when I went into the anger management, they kept saying that the test that you do at the end of it, they kept telling me I failed it over and over and over again. So I was in that class 4 times.
What was the
And I
test at
still
the
never,
end?
I don't know, they gave us like a multiple choice test that was like 2 pages. with like 20, 25 questions on it. So when you finish the anger management course, you had to fill this test out and you pass or you fail. And they said I failed every single time and I was stuck in it for like ever. I never did pass it.
That sounds strange. You didn't have to
Yeah.
do the 10 steps?
I don't really, it sounds familiar, but I don't really remember it.
So do you think the ranch is a good place, and would you send your kids there?
No. Well, it's not that it's not a good place, it's that they would need to really step it up, get some more training for their staff so that their staff knows what they're doing and how to handle children or kids that have whatever their issues are. As it stands right now, one therapist having a PhD and like someone running an anger management class doesn't know what they're doing, and having counselors looking after like 4 or 5 teenagers who are running rampant. Like, you need training. There's no doubt about it. They don't know how to run the kids, like, or not run them, but they don't know how to work with the kids
Do
that
you
are
feel
there.
that some of the staff that worked there were just very uneducated, not uneducated, had no experience in these fields, and they were just kind of there for a job, so to say?
I think so. Yeah, especially like, and look where you were. You were like what, 45 minutes away from, I think it was Salt Lake City,
No,
like an
it
hour.
was Richfield,
Richfield, that's it. Yeah.
which was about a 30-minute drive, or 30 kilometers, or 30-minute drive, and then you were about a 300 miles from Salt Lake City. So the nearest town, which they kind of like had, the cops kind of familiar with this, and they had them kind of watch out if you try and run away or anything, which is another question. Have you ever tried to run away or seen anybody try to run away from this place?
Yes, I did.
Was it successful?
No. Well, I know of 2 people that ran away and it was successful. They ended up breaking into homes that were in the nearby area, and they were arrested and taken back to court and weren't allowed to come back to Sorensons Ranch. They ended up going to juvie instead because I
Okay.
think they were on their last thread. And then a few of the girls that I knew decided that they were going to try to run, and because I knew their plan and what they were doing, I didn't say anything about it. But the night that they tried to run and everything and got caught within like 5 minutes, they decided to tell them that I was going to run as well. And
That's
literally
so mean.
I just stood there and I watched them do it. And I'm like, if I was going to run, I would have tried to, because all of the staff were distracted. So if someone's going to run, they would have ran then. But they were like, I guess they were just mad because I didn't run with them or I knew their plan or something. So we ended up being in isolation for like 3 or 4 days.
Wow. So tell me about what you feel about the school. How is the schooling?
I didn't mind the school. I liked how the teachers seemed to know what they were doing. They seemed to have the education to be able to teach the classes. They knew what they were talking about. If you asked them questions about stuff, they were actually able to answer them. And I liked how they let you work through the classes as quickly or as slowly as you wanted to. So if there was a class that I wanted to finish within 1 month, they would allow me to finish it in 1 month. But if I wanted to take my time because I wasn't understanding the curriculum, then I could take my time and take 4 or 5 months to finish the class. It didn't really make a difference. And the only class that I struggled with was the US history and US geography, because being from Canada, we didn't go into that much depth with the United States stuff.
Did you have
But
Martin?
yes, actually I did.
What did you think of him?
He was fun. I guess you could say he was more fun than teacher. Like, he seemed like more of a friend than a teacher. But he helped me out a lot through the class and gave me a lot of information, and a lot of the other students helped me out as well when I tried to get through those classes.
Yeah, I thought he was a character for sure.
Was the iguana still in the school when you were there?
Iguana, no, but I think there was a hedgehog somewhere.
Oh my God, there was an iguana. It was like the size, it was like I don't even know, like it was like huge. It was like this big.
Oh
We used to be
wow.
able to hold, we used to be able to hold it and play with it in class and everything.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
Hmm.
I just remember him just being a very eccentric kind of guy, very patriotic guy. So do you from you remember, do you remember any kind of like abuse or any sexual kind of misconduct within the staff and the students?
I don't think so. You always hear stories, no matter where you go, you're always hearing stories about, oh yeah, this person was off with this teacher, or this happened, but it's just rumors. And I can't say for certain if that actually happened or not. I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. I don't remember. I think there was a couple of rumors going around about a couple of the staff members and maybe a student and a staff member, but there was nothing concrete about it and there was no evidence brought forward. So I think it just kind of went away.
Have you heard about that girl like a few years ago? I forget her name, something, and she's one of the Sorensons, and she got caught flying to like I think it was LA to meet up with one of the past students there, and then she ended up going to jail for quite a while. I don't know, she probably might even still be in there.
Oh, I never heard about that.
That was pretty recent. If you look up Sorenson's, you'll be one of the first articles that come up.
Oh, I might do that then. I never heard about that. Like, as I said, like there was always stories and stuff you heard and rumors, but nothing ever came out of it when I was there.
Yeah, same here. It's like, of course, you hear things, you never know what's true or not. But there was definitely quite a lot of rumors going by, and I even remember a couple staff people leaving, and the reason we thought or heard was because of some sexual misconduct with students, as well as maybe some staff members taking things too far.
Well, I know my counselor, Kelsey, she was the reason she left because she got in a relationship with one of the other staff members who was married, and she ended up ruining their marriage and she had to leave.
Wow.
And that's coming directly from her mouth. Because I found her on Facebook after like, oh, I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago. I found her on Facebook and I started talking to her again and asked her why she wasn't working there no more.
She's like, okay, I'm gonna just spill the beans then.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow, that's pretty wild. So any stories or anything else that come to mind? I know it's been probably over 20 years now.
Honestly, there wasn't too much like a lot of the excitement you missed. Like you just hear rumors again and stuff. Like there was those couple of people that, as I said, they ran away, they successfully ran away and they got into those houses, broke into them, destroyed the people's homes and their product, like all of their pictures and everything. And then there was a handful of people that got restrained. So yeah, there wasn't too much like excitement other than that because they never really gave us the reins to kind of go free to kind of get in trouble. So it was just kind of like the same stuff over and over and over again.
Okay. I heard a lot of stories of people like getting hurt or getting in trouble, and then they would never kind of like inform the parents. They would never kind of really give any information out or.
Oh no, my parents knew everything that happened that I did. They definitely heard about everything. We got once a week phone calls and stuff with our parents, no one else. You weren't allowed to send letters to anybody unless you were level 2 or higher. So that really put a damp, like I had a boyfriend at the time here. So I was like, I wanted to send him letters or talk to him and stuff. I was never allowed to do anything. I think I spoke to him once and sent out one letter.
Do you remember your first phone call? Was it the same thing when you were there where you had to wait a few weeks till you can actually make your first phone call?
Yes. So I think it was 2 weeks. You had to be there 2 weeks because they wanted you to get settled in and get into the program. And then you could have a call with your parents. Because I got into trouble the second day I was there, I was allowed to have a phone call with my parents the third day to let them know that I was okay and everything was okay, because they did call my parents to let them know what happened. So they were when I was there, they were very on the ball with it, and everything I did, my parents found out about it. I was in isolation, my parents found out about it.
Okay, that's cool. I feel like when I was there, I felt kind of like they were watching over me for my first phone call. Did you feel like you're being monitored and you have to kind of be careful what you said?
Oh, you literally sit beside a counselor and they're listening to everything that you're saying.
Did you feel like, okay, I can't really say anything bad about this place. I don't want to have to go back in isolation because I said something or
Pretty much
talk bad about the place.
It's almost like they kind of tell you what you can and can't say. And then they sit there and they watch you to make sure you don't say it.
So
that's pretty much what it is.
It kind of feels a little bit, yeah, like they're almost guiding you or kind of manipulating you a little bit.
I would say manipulation would be the right word to use. The one thing that I did like was that when I asked to be taken off of my medication that I was on, they obliged. They're like, sure, no problem, we'll take you off your medication. It was like, okay, no problem. Like, that was, out of all the things to say yes to, you're saying yes to my medication. Like, I thought that was the strangest thing in the world.
I guess a lot of people took medication there, eh?
Yes. Yeah, I feel like I didn't even really need medication. Like, I didn't notice a difference from when I was on it to when I was off of it. There was no difference for me. I feel like when I was here in Canada, the doctors didn't know what to do with me, so they just put me on medication thinking that that would make me feel better. But I was never, like, I never felt depressed. I was happy all the time. I was having a good time. So I don't know. As soon as I got there, I was just like, I don't want to take this anymore.
I was the same way. I never take any medication in my life. I was always kind of against it. But for me, I tried to get on a medication that would help me sleep because I couldn't sleep there. I found it was just the most hardest thing to do was to sleep. I just wasn't very wanting to be there. And it was hard to be so far away from home that it was hard for me to sleep, and just the littlest things were tough. So for me, it was like,
yeah, it took me a while to figure out the sleeping too, because the girls would have the radios, so they would listen to music when they slept.
like
so for me,
radio stations, eh? We weren't allowed to have CDs, tapes, nothing.
Nope. So it was a radio station that was on all night. And that took me a while to get used to, because I'm used to coming from somewhere where there's silence, and now I have to learn to sleep with music on. So that was definitely something that it took me a while to get used to.
Well, that's not too bad. I mean, it's better than just being so stressed out that you can't sleep or something. At least you're comfortable.
Yeah.
And everything takes time, right? You listen to a little bit of music, and next thing you know, you need it to go to sleep.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was like that for a while after I got home. It was so weird because it was like, why is it so quiet?
So you said you kind of enjoy it there. So you don't feel like you've had any trauma from being there, and you don't still feel anything?
No, no trauma. Like, most of the memories I have is good. I kind of try to forget the bad parts about it, and I try to remember like the camping trips that I went on, or like we went on the weekly swimming trips, or like we went out and I don't know what they were called, but they were the deep fried pastries that we'd go out to a campfire setting.
Oh, the scones.
Yeah, so we
It
used
was
to do
like
that.
it was like dough, and then they throw it in the hot oil.
Yes.
Yeah, those are good actually.
I know. That's my one regret, is I forget how they made it, because I'm like, oh, they were so good.
I know, if you can remember, send me a message so I can kind of get in there too.
Maybe I'll try to research it. But yeah, I don't know how they did it. Like, I tried doing a couple of different things with it.
Because
here,
they called it scones, but like you have a scone here and it's completely different. Not a scone.
they taste gross here. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like this, like a donut almost. It was like an old-fashioned donut, and then you put like honey or something on it. It was so good.
Oh my God, they were delicious. Yeah. I could definitely eat those again. that was the one thing I missed. I wish I could go back there just to be able to make those.
All right, so why don't you tell me a little bit about how your life was after leaving the ranch?
Okay, so after I came home, it started rough because I literally had to take the 6-hour drive to Vegas, 6 8-hour drive, whatever it was, to get to Vegas, because that's where my flight was leaving from. Red-eye flight. So I took a flight from Vegas to Philly, and then I had a stopover, and then I almost missed my connecting flight because the flight was canceled, so they had to rush me down the other end of the airport to get on another flight, and then they lost my luggage. So I was home for 2 weeks without luggage, and which wasn't a big deal because I was actually able to go out and shop and get clothes and stuff. But I was just like, this is wonderful. I just left this place and now I'm off to a really awful start. And then I ended up getting a job when I got back. And then my boyfriend that I was with at the time, and I decided that we weren't going to be able to continue our relationship. So that ended. And then I ended up going to school the following fall. And then I ended up dropping out because what I thought before I wanted to do, I ended up not wanting to do anymore. And then I became a big party person again. And I kind of just swirled out of control for a few years. I guess that was just a matter of, I went from being someone that was out of control to being someone that was put into a situation where you can't do anything, not even blink without permission, to coming home and being like, this is what your life is now. You're going to go to get a job, you're going to go to school, and this is what's going to happen. And I guess I just didn't want to fit into that. So I kind of spiraled for a few years until I got back on my feet. And then I went to school in Massachusetts at Salem State for a couple of years. I took criminal justice there, and I lived with my friend that was in Georgetown, Massachusetts. And it kind of got better after that because then in 2009 I got married, and now I have 4 kids. So it got a lot better. My parents and I we had a really hard time with our relationship even after I got back though. And then my mom ended up with early Alzheimer's and dementia. And then my father passed away in 2014 as well. And my mom passed away in 2019. So the only regrets that I have is that I didn't get a chance to kind of spend a lot of quality time with them because we always seem to be bickering with each other. So that was kind of one thing that I wish I could have stuck together with a little bit more, but you eventually grow up. Yeah, you eventually grow up and it does get better. But yeah, because I didn't have such a horrible experience, and I think because I was only there for just under a year, I didn't have the trauma that a lot of people have after being there. Like, I know people that have been there for 2 or 3 years, and like there was 12-year-old kids there. Why would you send a 12-year-old kid there? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, I feel like it's a pretty awful place to be just in general, and to have someone who's 12 years old there. I mean, that's pretty traumatizing.
Yeah, like I think there was a couple of 12-year-olds, and then I think there was only a couple like 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, several 14-year-olds, and then it started getting up in age. But it was like, I remember thinking, I'm like, who sends a 12-year-old there?
So I know you've been very lucky to have a positive experience, but can you tell me about some of the other kids that might have been having more of like a harder issues and harder time, and maybe bit more of a rough go, as you could say?
Well, I remember, I'm still I still talk to Brandy, and her brother's on my Facebook, Robbie Metz, and they were there pretty much their entire teenage life. They were there the entire time. And I remember he got to stay there because they were twins. So he stayed there because of her, is what I was told. I never really confirmed that with them or not. But yeah, they had a horrible life growing up. I remember them telling their story, and they were stuck there their entire life. And then she ended up she's had nothing but bad luck and trouble in her life all the way through. And he's been the same way. I remember, I think it was last year, the year before, they actually thought that he died of an overdose, and they called her to come to Las Vegas to see if that was her brother's body, because she hadn't heard from him in a month. And they just had a horrible experience, right? All the way from birth, all the way through Sorensons Ranch. And they got in trouble a lot. I remember, like, Robbie, not so much. He was quiet. He kept to himself. He did his own thing. All the girls always wanted to be with him. But with Brandy, she was always getting into trouble. She was the one that would talk back, that would fight back, that would do everything she possibly could just to not settle down there whatsoever. So she was someone that I still talk to on Facebook and stuff, and she just had a rough go at it. I remember Trevor was the guy, he was dating a girl named Julie. And I know, being on the group, I'm not sure if it's the same Julie that passed away or not, but her and Trevor were really, really close. She was a level 4 when I was there, and still there when I was left. I don't know anything about her story, much of it. We just became very close when we were there. But Trevor was a disaster. He was completely opposite than her. He was always getting in fights, always running away, always doing things he wasn't supposed to. He was, I think the courts ordered him to be there. So that was a rough go of it. There was another guy named Ron that was there as well. He was the tallest one out of everyone there. He was like probably 6 feet something, but he went through foster care and everything. And I think the courts put him there as well. And he was from Montana. So there was quite a few people there that were ordered from the courts or that went through foster care, and they just didn't know what to do with them anymore because they kept running away from foster care homes. So there was a lot of people that just had nothing but trouble in their life, and they had a rough go with it.
I feel like a lot of these kids, they had to kind of swallow their emotions and all their feelings to just go with the flow of things, work their program as best as they can, almost like fake it till you make it, and just to get by, because they knew that no matter what they do, they're just going to get in trouble and they're going to have a harder time. That it was just inevitable. They just they wear you down, and to the point where you need to almost just like lie and just have this whole like fake personality to just be like, yeah, this is my program and I'm working it. And they're not actually helping you. They're just kind of like encouraging you to just stay, not lose points and whatever.
Exactly. And that's what goes back to me saying about they don't have the proper training. Like, you don't just go to someone and say, well, why would you do that? That's not appropriate. We're taking 10 points off. A normal counselor would sit down with you and be like, hey, what's going on? This isn't normally like you. Why would you do this? You need, like, kind of get into a conversation with them and then see where it goes, not just be like 10 points docked off, you're done. Go in your
Did you feel like a lot of the staff just had this big ego and power trip where they would just be like, so easily you can tick them off, and they'd be like, oh, I didn't like the way you look, you go into isolation, you're on level 1?
Yeah, pretty much. But I think, you know what though, at the same time, like now being older and kind of being in a situation as well, it would depend on the counselor. Like, a lot of the counselors that have been there for a long time kind of knew how to handle it, and they were a bit easier going and everything else. But the younger counselors were kind of like, I'm not putting up with this crap. Get away from me. And again, I think that comes down to maturity, training, and understanding the situation.
Qualifications too. I don't think any of these staff are qualified to be in charge of kids or troubled youth.
No, and they don't have like regulations in Utah like they do in other places as well. So they probably get away with doing whatever they want.
Like I was saying earlier, a lot of these staff and situations happen with these staff that don't get informed by the higher ups or the parents or anybody. No one follows up with it. They kind of just sweep a lot of things under the rug. Like I remember getting a concussion while I was there. No one brought me to the doctor. No one told my parents. No one really did anything about the situation.
Right. Yeah. And again, as I said, like it depends because the kid fell out of the window, so they called an ambulance right away, probably because they were scared of getting sued. He broke his arm. It was clear he broke his arm. They didn't want to get in trouble for it, so they called an ambulance. So it's like it all depends on the situation. Like you fall and you hit your head. Okay, how many fingers am I holding up? Okay, you're good to go. Just go walk it off, type of thing. But like it seems like when I was there in 2000 compared to when you were there in 2002, 2003, it seems like things were run a little bit differently in a few of the different areas. Mind you, they went through counselors like crazy as well. So counselors, like when I was there, they seemed like they were there for a very, very long time and were a bit experienced. Mind you, there was new ones that came in as well when I was there. But like I know a lot of the ones that were there when I was there left.
Okay. Well, I remember counselors being as young as like 18 to 20, and we were all pretty close to that age. And anyways, it's just a scary situation to have your kids in a place when people are watching over them and they're not very qualified and you don't really know their history. I mean, there was one staff member that had some criminal records, and he's like part of the Sorensons family. And then you have the girl who went to jail for sleeping with one of the students, which is pretty scary stuff.
Yeah, and that stuff's gonna keep happening unless they do something about it. Like I don't know, like I haven't heard much about what's come out of the place since. Like I'm actually surprised it's still running.
That's why I'm trying to get this podcast going and get these stories out, because I feel like it's almost sickening to know that these people can be making money off people this way and just keep doing what they're doing.
And that's
Be
the thing
honest.
is like when I was there, my parents had to pay, not only did they pay the whatever the fees was, like 2,000 a month or whatever, but then they had their fees that they charged because it was Canadian funds, and then we also had to pay the exchange on the dollar.
Yeah, it's not cheap to send a kid there. Do you remember any of the parent or any of the other future students' parents coming to visit, and then you were a high level student would need to go on a walkabout with them and kind of make sure that you don't say anything bad about this place and try and encourage them to send their kids there. You remember that?
I remember when, I don't remember doing that, but I remember there was kids that went out on they went for a visit away or whatever, and they would come back and like they would be like hoity-toity type, like rich people type, and their moms or dads would come pick them up for a week or a weekend or whatever. And like as I said, our dress code ended up turning into blue jeans and gray t-shirts, but they would come back with like, the girls would have like shorts showing their butt cheeks and like tight tank tops, and their nails would be done, and they would have their makeup done up, and they would have extensions in their hair. And literally as soon as the parent dropped them off and they left, they literally got their nails ripped off, the extensions cut out of their hair, and they were forced to be put back into the clothes that they were supposed to be wearing.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. That makes sense.
But that happened for a few of the people that went on their, I don't know what it was called. I never got that experience because I was from Canada, so I didn't get that. But yeah, their parents would come in, do that, and then that would happen. I remember the parents came in to sometimes do tours or whatever, but I don't remember. I was never the one that was around them when they did that.
Yeah, I was never the one to do that either. But apparently, how it went down, they would have a high level, trustworthy kid who they don't think will spill the beans and kind of just be like, this is a wonderful place, yada, yada, yada. You should send your kids here.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't, as I said, like it wasn't too bad for me. I didn't mind it. I wouldn't send my kids there. I wouldn't recommend anyone to go there. I think I just got lucky is pretty much it. I got lucky.
in a sense, I feel like I got lucky too, but I don't forget any of the things that went on there, and I know for sure that the people that run this place don't deserve to be doing this. It seems like they're very greedy and they're very accepting to the abuse and this sexual misconduct, and it's obviously it's running through the staff, the owners. I mean, it runs deep. I mean, they're all living in Koosharem, Utah, which is a town that's pretty much everybody that lives in that town is working at this rehab facility.
Yep. You have family,
It's like a cult in a
friends.
sense.
Yeah.
It's like a cult. And I mean, I know you had a good experience there, but it could. Do you think there also could be a chance that maybe you're just remembering the positive, and you're also have, as you're like me, I don't have any regrets. What doesn't kill me makes me stronger. But that also doesn't hide the fact that what they're doing there is wrong, and the fact that there's a lot of sexual misconduct and a lot of abuse going on at this place.
Oh yeah, there's a lot, like I think me being there just a short time as well, that made a difference. Like I think if I was there longer, I probably would have seen a lot more of the stuff that was going on, but I never got to experience a lot of it. I feel like I was pretty well sheltered there because, as I said, like for the first several months, more than half the time I was there, I was on a higher level. So I was able to be sheltered from a lot of the bad stuff that was happening because I never got to really see what happened to level ones. I never really got to see what happened to a lot of this stuff because I was off the school property a lot of the time, or I was in the school doing my stuff because I got to go on the excursions to the mini camping trips nightly or the swimming or whatever it was. So I think I was kind of sheltered a little bit because I was higher level until I got to level one. And then I was only on level one for about 2 months before I left. So if I was there longer and I was stuck on the level one longer, I probably would have seen a lot more and experienced a lot more bad stuff.
I think it can go either way because I was very similar situation than you. I got there, I never got level one the whole time I was there, and I was probably one of the only kids that ever moved up the level system without getting in trouble. So I went from starting level one to level five right away as quick as you can go because I kind of was just like, fuck this shit. I'm not going to get into level one and be like, get into trouble at all because that just looks not fun for me. So I was like, just keep your mouth shut, do whatever the F you have to do to just grow on a higher level. And I guess I was just smart in some way. And I decided that's the best way for me to do it. But with that being said, I was able to kind of make friends with a lot of the kids. And I was very, very much active into knowing all the students there. And I would talk to them and I kind of would hear stories and I would hear this guy. I would talk to everybody. So I kind of did get to hear a lot of messed up things. But then you're making me think actually too, maybe I only heard half the story. But I do feel like it can go both ways. You can do really well and still hear about a lot of the stuff, or you can kind of, like you said, kind of maybe not hear as much about it. And maybe you're kind of turning a little blind eye from it too, because you don't want to get in trouble. You don't want to be associated with any of the negative or anything that's going on. You just want to work your program, do what you need to do.
Yep, it's true. Like, who wants to shovel? Like, we ended up shoveling the horse shit as one of our punishments because we missed one of the workouts. So we got told we had to shovel horse shit instead of going on like a 2 or 3 hour workout. So like that happened in September. Who really wants to do that? Like nobody.
What about the hay? Do you remember hauling hay at all?
I didn't do the hay. But I
That might have came
did.
later because we literally hauled so much hay that it wasn't for just the Sorensons Ranch farm. I believe we were going to farms all over the town and everybody's who works there's farm and pretty much doing free labor for everybody that lived in that town.
I think the guys did the hay. I don't think the girls did it. The girls were more, they had us doing we had to herd the cattle with on the horses and stuff like that, or we had to shovel the horse crap and stuff like that. So I think the guys were just the ones that did all of the hay and everything else like that.
because I remember, yeah, as soon as you come in, you're level 1 and you're hauling hay, working on the farm for a week, maybe 2 weeks, whatever it was. And I remember specifically, I got there and it was just piss and rain, and you're hauling bales of hay, and you're so young and you're little, and like a 90-pound wet bale of hay is heavy as heck, and you're picking it up, throwing it on the truck, and it wasn't fun, or in a big pile or whatever. I feel like it's good discipline, but at the same time, who you whose hay is that, and who's getting the free labor here? I mean, we would get an allowance for what, $1 a week, $2 a week, something like this.
It went by levels. So if you were like level 1, you got $1, and I think it went up to $10 or $12 or something like that. So like,
So you're pretty much getting a $2 a week, $5 if you're lucky on a good level. You're putting all the money back in the vending machines and getting a few ramens and chocolate bars and sodas, and you spend all your money that next few days. And then they're feeding you all the food from the farm, and then you're paying like $2,000 to $4,000 a month to be there. It's like, what is, and they just pay the staff minimum wage because they're just a bunch of random
but don't
people.
forget the allowance that you're getting probably came from the money that your parents were paying.
I'm just saying they're making quite a lot of money off you, and you're pretty much living in like an old rundown cabin, and the food for them is like pennies for them.
Yep.
It's just a big monopoly of a business.
And we had to peel the potatoes.
I don't remember that, but it does sound like an old movie, like in Problem Child or something, when the kids like peeling all the potatoes.
Yeah, we did the potatoes.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting place, I'll say the least. And I really hope no one has to go through any pain or suffering or any less sexual misconduct stuff, because that's just not right for minors, especially minors.
Oh no, definitely not. Like,
Even if there was one incident, that's enough for me to want the whole place to be shut down.
but the thing is it's, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but it's an American, it's in the States. Like here in Canada, everything else is more sheltered. There's more rules, there's more regulations, there's more licensing. In the States, I feel that they can do whatever they want, whenever they want, and there's no consequences for them.
I guess, I don't know. I haven't been there since 20 years, but I do feel like it should be the same as here, if not even more strict, you know?
Yes.
I just find it's so disgusting and screwed up that they're able to just run a place like this.
You know what, like it's hard, like it really is, like at the same time, because a lot of the time, like as I said, like a lot of the kids are coming from foster care and they're coming from the court systems, so they're not really getting the funding. Like I went privately, so my parents had to pay out of pocket. You went privately, your parents had to pay out of pocket. But like I would say probably about 75% of the kids that went there, they weren't private. So a lot of the funding they're getting too is probably low funding from the government. So they're probably just doing what they can to scrape by. And they're like, well, we're going to do the bare minimum because we're not getting really paid for it. So why should we care if no one else cares?
Yeah.
And
well, I do feel like someone in the back there is making a lot of money and just kind of running a little shitty little ranch for a bunch of troubled youth, and they don't really care about the kids. They don't care about the school. They don't care about anything besides making money.
Right. So what they do is when the private kids come in, they take their parents to the cleaners with how much money they have to pay. The government funding covers probably most of it, so they pocket people that are paying privately.
And that's why you were sent on level 1, because they want to keep you there as long as they can. Because I actually worked the program, got to level 5, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go home. Nope. Same thing has happened to you. The therapist told me, you're not working your program. You're not ready to go. You need to just keep working at it. But thankfully, they couldn't throw me on level 1. Or they didn't do it, but I was lucky and I kept on level 5, and I just kept working the program, going to therapy, going to school, coming back to the off-campus house, and just hoping that like my parents will let me come home. And it wasn't until I think I convinced my mom. I was like convinced that she wouldn't go and talk to the staff about our conversations, and I would say, because it was at the off campus house where she can call the phone there, where you can't make calls. But I would talk to her and I'd be like, look, I really want to be closer to home. I'm in Utah and I'm from Montreal. So I convinced her to send me to a boarding school in Ontario after I got discharged, so I didn't have to stay there till I was 18. But it took some convincing, because they really had my parents thinking that I needed to be there and keep working my program, wherein I actually just went up the level system and I was doing my therapy and I was ready to go home within the first 3 months.
Yeah.
And they kept me there
It's-
13 months.
Yeah, it's like, I'm glad I was only there till October. Like, if I didn't turn 18, I don't know if I would have stayed there longer or not.
I was just turned 17. I was like 17 in 1 month. I would have been there if I was till I was 18 if I didn't convince my mom that and say to her, oh, I really miss you. Like, I had to play my mom like I played the school. I had to say, hey, mom, I really love you and I'd love to be closer to home. But really, I just wanted to get the hell out of there, because it was like being in like a Nazi death camp. Like,
Yeah, it has its yeah, level 1 could definitely be like that.
and I was on level 5 the whole time, and I still felt horrible there. The staff just treated people like shit. The first day I was there, there was a staff, his name was like Cisco, I think. And he just, or no, Tavita, he just grabbed me, threw me down the stairs when I just like, I think I just slightly talked back to him. It was my first night. And then I was like, I started crying and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And it was like right there and right then I realized I need to just shut my mouth, work the program, and just be a puppet, and sort of say, so I did as much as best as I can to just shut the hell up, do what I need to do, because I'm either going to get the shit kicked out of me or I'm just going to have a horrible time.
Yeah, it's true. It's scary, but true.
So he just threw me down the stairs and like had his like hand over my throat. Like it was scary, man. This big Tongan guy. I'm just like, what the fuck did I do wrong? I was like literally about to go to bed for the first time, and it was nighttime. And I can't remember what he said, but I just gave him maybe like a little bit of some attitude or something,
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty much, I was feeling the choices when he had me thrown down the stairs and had his hand on my throat. It was kind of like, you either shut the fuck up and go back up there and never do that again, or I'm going to take you to the isolation room and make your life a living hell, and you're going to da da da. And I was just like, I'm sorry. Like, I'll never speak out again. And I never did. I was there for 13 months and I never got in trouble.
And see, that's the thing where it's like that one situation was behind closed doors, so no one really got to see what actually happened. And that's what I believe probably happened, and why I didn't get to hear about more of it or see more of it is because all of the bad stuff happened behind closed doors because they didn't want to do it in public.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, we've been talking for over an hour. Is there anything else that you want to add or talk about? I mean, obviously you were able to use this experience in a positive way, get on with your life. You might have got into partying a bit, but I mean, that's kind of normal. Once you leave, you want to be able to experience life, especially if you're missing out.
Yeah.
Being in Sorensons. I mean, I did drugs probably until I was almost like 30 years old, off and on, and took me a long time to shake off the experience. I felt like I've been holding a grudge, and I come back to it often, and I'm still feel like I have so much to heal from it. So I'm glad to know that you had kind of experience. You're able to like start your life with your kids and do your thing, and like that's super great, because it's not like that for everybody. And a lot of the people that I talk to, especially the people that have been there earlier than I have, have even worse experiences than I did. And I thought mine was bad. And I'm like, wow, you guys have really been through hell. That's actually one more question. Do you know any or heard any stories about how this place used to be? Did you hear about?
I have not, like, a lot of the people that were there, like, as I said, like, the only girl that I really spoke to that was level 4, I think it was level 4. She was the highest level, and she was there for several years, and she was going to be there till she was 18, but she didn't really talk about what she went through before I got there, or how she ended up getting up to the high level. I never really got to go into a lot with her with that, and I never really got to talk to any of the other people that I associated with about what was like before I got there.
Because I obviously we were talking about everything as kind of a story hearsay, but I heard stories about kids being chained to the fence in front of the lodge in the heat, just being abused, not fed. And this was coming from stories, I believe it was like in the 80s when they had kids there. And it was like pretty hard to hear these things and pretty believable. And I think it came from some of the staff. And these are the stories that you hear, but I still feel like it could be so true by the way they kind of run things, and the more they get away with it, the more they're going to do it. And I feel like the later on it gets, the easier it gets because of the internet and because of things and newer rules or something. But I just feel it comes from a long line of abuse, and it's just a really scary place.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything like that. Like, I know kids were sent to the fence out behind the main building, out behind the main lodge, and they had to sit on the fence all day, sometimes as punishment, but no one was ever tied up or chained up when I was there, and I didn't hear any stories previously about what would have happened.
Yeah, well, they're just stories, but it's just hard to hear those kinds of things because we think we had it bad, and like, man, it sounded like it was really bad back then. Even just being told that you have to sit on the fence all day in Utah in the hot sun, that's for a kid, that's pretty much almost torture in a way.
Yeah. Here's a plate of food for breakfast. We'll be back in 5 minutes to take it away from you, whether you're done or not.
And that's probably all the food you would get for the day if you're lucky.
Well, they brought out meals, but they literally put a time limit on it. Here's your food. You got 5 minutes to eat. We'll be back to get your plate.
Interesting. Yeah, a lot of these things are things I forgot about long time ago. And like starting to do this podcast is bringing back a lot of things, a lot of feelings, and I don't know how much healings it's actually doing, but it's good to talk about it.
Oh, for sure. It's always good to get stuff out, especially like I feel like it's helping you, kind of helps a lot of people probably reminisce what they actually went through, whether it was a good or bad experience. They'll be able to remember it and kind of be like, oh, at least I wasn't the only one experiencing it.
All right. Well, was there anything else that you want to add or talk about or ask me or?
I don't think so. I think we covered quite a bit in an hour and a half. So
it's funny. We did cover quite a bit, but in my head, I feel like we barely scratched the surface, and this always happens. There's just so much in this place. It's hard. I still have dreams about it most nights, and it's interesting.
Speak with Brandy. She might be able to tell you a lot of the bad stuff that happened, because she went through a lot when she was there.
Yeah, maybe put me in contact with her and I'll see if I can convince her to do an episode.
Okay, for sure.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for telling your story and joining us and just being part of the experience here, because I feel like for me, it's been very healing, and I'm sure for a lot of people, it's good to hear these stories. And anyways, yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Have a good night.
You too. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
All right. Welcome back. So I hope everybody enjoyed this week's episode. I really appreciate all you guys coming, listening. That was been an interesting few weeks. First week, I think we have about almost 300 listeners and 200 on last week's. I think that's great. I think there's really something to be said about that, and I'm glad to be doing this, and I'm really looking forward to speaking with more people. I have a lot more content, so we'll see you next week with another great episode. All right, take care, guys. Thanks for the support. See you next week.